Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant as the ship dropped out of hyperspace. He expected to see the lights of New Boston Colony spread across the planet's surface. Instead, he saw nothing but darkness and smoke. "Sir, I'm not reading any life signs," said Lieutenant Karen Walsh from her station. Her voice was tight with worry. "The whole settlement is gone." Jake felt his heart stop. His wife, Linda, was down there. His twin daughters, Amy and Beth, were supposed to be in school right now. He had left them 3 weeks ago for what should have been a simple patrol mission. "Take us down," Jake ordered. His voice did not shake, but his hands did. The Defiant landed in what used to be the town square. Jake walked down the ramp and stepped onto ground that was still warm from weapons fire. The air smelled like burning metal, and worse things he did not want to think about. Where his house should have been, there was only a crater. Where the school should have been, there was twisted metal and ash. 2,000 people had lived in New Boston yesterday. Now there was nothing but silence. Jake picked up a small pink book from the rubble. It was Beth's favorite story about a princess and a dragon. The edges were burned, but he could still read her name written in crayon on the first page. "Captain," Karen called from behind him. "We're getting a message from Earth Command." Jake walked back to his ship like a man in a dream. Admiral Kate Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired and angry. "Jake, I'm sorry," she said. "We just got word about New Boston. The hegemony hit 12 human colonies yesterday. The Council is calling it an unfortunate mistake." "A mistake?" Jake's voice was barely a whisper. "The Council says the hegemony thought those worlds were empty. They're offering to investigate and provide compensation for damaged property." "Property?" Jake looked at the pink book in his hands. "They killed my family and called it property damage?" Admiral Sullivan's jaw tightened. "There's more. The Council just announced they're giving the hegemony 3 more human worlds as part of a peace deal. They say it will prevent future conflicts." Jake stared at her. "They're rewarding them. The Council says we need to think about galactic stability. They say human lives are a small price to pay for lasting peace." "Human lives are a small price," Jake repeated slowly. "Admiral, what did we do wrong?" "We trusted them," Sullivan said. "We thought joining the Council meant we were equals. We thought our people mattered." Jake set the pink book down carefully on his command chair. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "Come home, Captain. All ships, all people. It's time we had a talk about our future in this galaxy." 3 days later, Jake sat in a meeting room on Earth. Around the table were 50 other humans who had lost everything. Some were military officers like him. Others were diplomats, scientists, and colonists who had barely escaped the hegemony attacks. Dr. Ryan Clark, Earth's chief diplomatic advisor, stood at the front of the room. He looked like he had not slept in weeks. "The Council has made their position clear," Clark said. "Human lives don't matter. Human colonies are bargaining chips. Human concerns are not important enough to risk their precious stability." "What? About the defense pacts?" asked Captain Lisa Hayes. "They promised to protect our colonies." "Those pacts aren't worth the paper they're written on," Clark replied. "When I asked for military support, they told me it would upset the hegemony. When I demanded justice for our dead, they told me to be patient." Admiral Sullivan stood up. "I've been thinking about this for 3 days. The Council sees us as children. Useful children who make good tools and provide interesting technology, but still just children who should be quiet when adults are talking." "So, what do we do?" Jake asked. "We leave," Sullivan said simply. "All of us. Every human in Council space comes home. Every diplomat, every scientist, every trader, every colonist. We pack up and walk away." "They'll try to stop us," someone said. "Let them try," Sullivan replied. "But I don't think they will. They don't think we matter enough to worry about." The vote was quick and unanimous. 50 voices said yes to leaving the galaxy behind. Jake thought about Linda and the girls. They had been so excited about living on a new world, meeting alien neighbors, being part of something bigger than Earth. The council had taken that dream and turned it into ash. When do we start? Jake asked. Now, Sullivan said. Send the recall code to every human ship in the galaxy. Tell them to come home immediately. No explanations, no goodbyes, no second chances. What about our diplomatic missions? Ambassador Helen Carter will handle the formal withdrawal. After that, we're done talking to them. Jake walked out of the meeting and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, alien beings were deciding which human worlds to sacrifice next. They were calculating how many human lives were worth their political games. He thought about Beth's pink book and her drawings of princesses. In her stories, the good guys always won. The princess always saved the day. Justice always mattered. More than politics. Maybe his daughter had been smarter than all the adults in the galaxy. Jake pulled out his communicator and sent the message that would change everything. 3 words that would echo across 1,000 worlds. Come home now. Within hours, human ships throughout the galaxy received the same coded transmission. Captains abandoned their missions. Diplomats left their posts. Scientists destroyed their research rather than leave it behind. Families packed their belongings and headed for the nearest transport. The great exodus had begun. The council would wake up tomorrow to find that humanity had vanished overnight. They would search for explanations and demand answers. They would threaten and plead and bargain. But Jake Morrison was done listening to their words. He had heard enough council promises to last a lifetime. Now it was time for humanity to write its own story. As night fell over Earth, Jake looked at his daughter's book one more time. Then he carefully placed it in his desk drawer next to his service weapon and his family photos. The council had taught him that human lives were worth nothing. Tomorrow he would begin teaching them what nothing looked like. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center on Earth as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Every human was coming home, just as ordered. No questions asked, no delays, no second thoughts. Captain Lisa Hayes had abandoned her trade route with the Centauri Republic 3 hours after receiving the recall order. Her ship, Freedom's Edge, carried goods worth 50 million credits, but she dumped the entire cargo into space without hesitation. Her message was simple. Contract terminated. Do not contact us again. Dr. Alex Chen was harder to extract. He worked at the Galactic Research Institute on Kepler Prime, the most advanced scientific facility in known space. His research into quantum mechanics had already won him 3 galactic awards. But when the recall came, he spent 2 hours deleting 15 years of work. Sir, you can't just destroy this, his alien research partner had pleaded. This could revolutionize space, travel for every species in the galaxy. Alex looked at the blue-skinned scientist who had worked beside him for 8 years. You're right, it could, but it won't. He finished wiping the computers and walked out without looking back. His partner never saw him again. Commander Steve. Parker led the military evacuation. 30 human colonies scattered across council space needed immediate extraction. The job should have taken months, but Steve had other plans. His fleet moved like lightning from system to system. At each colony, humans loaded onto transports with only essential belongings. Everything else stayed behind. Houses, businesses, research stations, mining operations, all abandoned in a matter of hours. When hegemony ships tried to intercept the evacuation at the Tau Ceti colony, they got a nasty surprise. Human military technology had advanced far beyond Council intelligence reports. The hegemony squadron found themselves facing weapons they had never seen before. "This is hegemony war leader Krex," came the transmission. "You are ordered to stop and submit to inspection." Steve's response came through actions, not words. His ships tore through the hegemony formation in minutes. No human transports were even scratched. The evacuation continued without another challenge. On Galactic Prime, the Council's capital world, Ambassador Helen Carter prepared for her final meeting. She had served as humanity's voice in the Council for 12 years. She had made friends among the alien diplomats. She had believed in the dream of galactic cooperation. That dream was dead now. The Council chamber was packed when she arrived. Representatives from 200 species filled the curved seats, all talking at once. Everyone wanted to know why humans were fleeing Council space. Council Chairman Veltar called for order with his forearm gesture. The Sigma Collective leader looked confused and annoyed. "Ambassador Carter," he began, "the Council demands an explanation for humanity's sudden departure from multiple star systems. This coordinated withdrawal appears to violate several trade agreements and defense pacts." Helen stood at the human podium for the last time. The chamber fell silent. The human species hereby formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately, she said. Her voice carried clearly through the vast room. All treaties, agreements, and obligations between humanity and Council members are terminated. The chamber erupted in shouts and demands for explanation. Helen waited for the noise to die down. Furthermore, she continued, humanity requests that all Council species refrain from entering human space or contacting human representatives. Any violations of this request will be handled appropriately. "You cannot simply leave," shouted Representative Zethkar of the Altarian Federation. He was the same alien who had told her that human colonies were acceptable losses just 1 week. Ago. "You have responsibilities to the galactic community." Helen looked at him directly. The galactic community made it clear that humanity has no voice worth hearing. Therefore, humanity no longer wishes to speak. But the trade routes, the research projects, the defense agreements, another representative called out. The economic impact alone will be catastrophic. "Perhaps you should have considered that before deciding our people were expendable," Helen replied. Chairman Veltar stood up. "Ambassador Carter, surely we can discuss this reasonably. If humanity has grievances, the proper channels exist to address them." Helen almost smiled. Almost. "Chairman, in the past year, the Council has sacrificed 12 human colonies to maintain peace with the hegemony. When we requested military support, we were told it would destabilize negotiations. When we demanded justice for our murdered civilians, we were told to be patient. When we asked for our voice to be heard, we were told to understand the bigger picture." She paused and looked around the chamber at faces that showed confusion and growing concern. "Humanity understands the bigger picture now. We understand exactly how much our lives and opinions matter to this Council. We have learned our lesson perfectly." "What lesson?" Veltar asked. "That we mean nothing to you. Therefore, you mean nothing to us." With that, Helen Carter's holographic image disappeared. The human embassy on Galactic Prime sealed its doors and went dark. Every human diplomat, attaché, and staff member had already left the planet. The Council chamber remained in chaos for hours as representatives tried to understand what had just happened. Back on Earth, Admiral Sullivan received confirmation that the last human transport had cleared Council space. After 15 years of membership, humanity had completely withdrawn from galactic civilization in less than a week. Dr. Ryan Clark joined her in the command center. "The Centauri are asking why we broke our trade contracts. The Altarians want to know if this is some kind of negotiating tactic. The Vegan Union is threatening legal action for abandoned mining rights." "Let them threaten," Sullivan said. "What about our people?" "All accounted for. Every human citizen is either on Earth or in transit. We didn't leave anyone behind." Sullivan nodded and activated the system-wide defense grid. Automated weapons platforms came online around every planet, moon, and space station in the Sol system. Energy barriers activated at the system's edge. Warning beacons began broadcasting in every known language. "Attention all vessels," the automated message began. "You are approaching human space. This system is closed to all non-human traffic. Any attempt to enter will be considered an act of aggression. Turn back now." Jake Morrison, recently promoted to captain of the new orbital defense station, watched the barriers activate. The Sol system was now completely isolated from the rest of the galaxy. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're getting transmission requests from 17 different council species. They all want to talk." Jake thought about his wife and daughters, dead because the council valued stability over human lives. He thought about the pink book still sitting in his desk drawer. "Block all incoming transmissions from non-human sources," he ordered. "If they want to talk to someone, they can contact their council representatives." The galaxy had spent 15 years teaching humanity their place. Now humanity would spend the next 15 years teaching the galaxy what that lesson had cost them. The Great Withdrawal was complete. Humanity had turned its back on the stars and locked the door behind them. The council would try to change their minds. They would send delegations and offer concessions and make promises they had no intention of keeping. But humanity was done listening. They had heard enough council words to last a lifetime. 5 years had passed since humanity closed the doors to the Sol system. The galaxy outside had changed, but not in ways the council had expected. Trade routes that had depended on human logistics collapsed within months. Research projects ground to a halt without human innovation and problem-solving skills. Military operations struggled without the tactical expertise humans had quietly provided. The council had never realized how much they depended on humanity until humans were gone. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, looking out at the most ambitious construction project in human history. The entire Sol system was being transformed into something the galaxy had never seen. Massive defense platforms floated between Earth and Mars, each one capable of destroying a fleet. Energy shields that could stop entire armadas stretched across space. Weapon systems based on technology the Council couldn't imagine waited silently in the dark. Dr. Ryan Clark approached her with his daily report. His hair had gone gray in the past 5 years, but his eyes burned with purpose. "Project Renaissance is ahead of schedule," he said. "The lunar research facilities are producing breakthrough technologies every week, without council restrictions. On dangerous research, our people are accomplishing miracles." Sullivan nodded. "What about the deep space monitoring stations?" "All operational. We can track every ship movement within 50 light years. The galaxy thinks we've gone quiet, but we see everything they do." Sullivan smiled grimly. The Council had spent decades limiting human research, claiming certain technologies were too dangerous for young species to develop. Now freed from those restrictions, human scientists were advancing at a rate that terrified their former allies. Captain Jake Morrison commanded Phoenix Station at the edge of the system. The massive structure served as humanity's first and last line of defense. It was also their message to the galaxy, a dark, imposing fortress that spoke louder than words ever could. Jake walked through the station's corridors, past weapons labs where scientists built devices that could crack planets, past training facilities where human soldiers learned tactics no alien military could comprehend, past communications centers that intercepted every council transmission in known space. "Sir," Lieutenant Karen Walsh reported, "we have another delegation request. The Altarian Federation wants to send an ambassador to discuss mutual concerns." Jake looked at the message and deleted it without reading the details. Standard response. Karen nodded and sent back the same message they had been using for 5 years. "Transmission not recognized. Please contact your local council representative for assistance with galactic matters." The Altarians had sent 47 requests in the past year. The Centauri had sent 63. Even species humanity had barely known were trying to establish. Contact, all received the same response. All were ignored. Jake returned to his office and pulled out a pink book from his desk drawer. Beth's Princess Story was falling apart from handling, but he read it every day. It reminded him why humanity had chosen isolation over integration. The princess in the story always fought the dragon. She never tried to negotiate or compromise or sacrifice innocent people for political gain. She fought until the dragon was dead and her people were safe. Jake closed the book and returned to work. Meanwhile, in the Outer Rim territories, something ancient was stirring. The Devourers had slept for 1,000,000 years in the dark spaces between galaxies. Vast mechanical intelligences that consumed entire star systems. They had been dormant since the last great war that nearly destroyed all life in the known universe. Now they were waking up. The first sign came from the Kepler system on the galaxy's edge. A mining colony simply vanished overnight. Then the Rigel outpost went dark. Then 3 hegemony worlds reported strange signals before their communications cut off permanently. The Council's response was predictable. They formed committees to study the problem. They held emergency sessions to discuss proper procedures. They sent diplomatic missions to investigate reports of massive unknown ships in the Outer Rim. Those diplomatic missions never came back. Chairman Veltar of the Sigma Collective called the largest council meeting in galactic history. 200 species sent their best minds to address what was clearly becoming an existential threat. "The evidence is clear," announced Dr. Keftal, the council's chief scientist. "Something is systematically destroying star systems along the rim. The pattern suggests a coordinated attack by unknown forces with technology far beyond our capabilities." "What do we know about these attackers?" asked Representative Zethkar. "Very little. Our scout ships report massive constructs the size of small moons. They appear to be mechanical in nature and show no interest in communication. They simply arrive, consume everything in the system, and move to the next target." The chamber filled with worried murmurs. Several species had already begun evacuating their rim territories. "How long until they reach core systems?" Chairman Veltar asked. "At current speed, 6 months. Maybe less if they continue to accelerate." The reality of the situation settled over the chamber like a cold fog. The galaxy was being invaded by something they couldn't understand, couldn't communicate with, and couldn't stop. "We need to combine our fleets," suggested the Vegan Union representative. "Pool our resources and military strength." "Our combined fleets couldn't stop them at Kepler," Dr. Keftal replied. "These attackers destroyed a full hegemony battle group without taking any apparent damage. Traditional military responses appear ineffective." "Then what do you suggest?" Veltar demanded. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The Council, with all its member species and advanced technology, was facing a threat it couldn't handle. Finally, Representative Zethkar spoke the words everyone was thinking. "What about the humans?" The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species insisted that humanity had abandoned the galaxy and couldn't be trusted. Others pointed out that humans had always shown remarkable innovation in desperate situations. A few suggested that humanity might refuse to help even if asked. "The humans have cut all contact," Chairman Veltar reminded them. "They made it clear they want nothing to do with the Council." "That was 5 years ago," argued the Centauri representative. "Surely they would respond to a threat this large." Dr. Keftal cleared his throat. "There is something else the Council should know. Our historical research has uncovered records from the last Devourer awakening, 1,000,000 years ago." Every being in the chamber turned to listen. The species that defeated them then had remarkable similarities to humans. Same technological approach, same tactical flexibility, same willingness to develop weapons other species considered too dangerous. They saved the galaxy, but paid a terrible price. Most of their civilization was destroyed in the final battle. "Are you saying humans are our only hope?" Veltar asked. "I'm saying they might be our only hope. But first, we have to convince them to help us." The chamber fell quiet again as everyone considered the enormous irony. The species they had dismissed as unimportant, whose concerns they had ignored, whose people they had sacrificed for political convenience, might be the only force capable of saving them all. Outside the Sol system, devourer fleets continued their relentless advance toward the heart of galactic civilization. Inside the system, human scientists worked on projects that defied every law of physics the Council thought they understood. The galaxy was about to learn what 5 years of desperate innovation could accomplish when humanity was truly motivated. But, first, they had to swallow their pride and ask for help from the species they had treated as children. The Devourers had consumed 18 star systems. 20 trillion beings were dead, their worlds reduced to empty space and scattered debris. The Galactic Council's attempts at diplomacy had resulted in the complete destruction of 3 separate negotiation fleets. Chairman Veltar stood in the Emergency Command Center on Galactic Prime, watching tactical displays that showed the approaching doom of his civilization. Red markers indicated systems already consumed. Orange markers showed systems under attack. The expanding wave of destruction moved steadily toward the core worlds where most of galactic civilization lived. "How long?" he asked Dr. Keftal. 6 weeks until they reached the Centauri colonies. 10 weeks until they hit the major trade routes. 12 weeks until they reach Galactic Prime itself. The chamber held representatives from every species in the council. For the first time in galactic history, there were no political arguments or territorial disputes. Everyone understood that they were facing extinction. "Our combined fleets have failed," reported Admiral Thys of the Vegan Navy. "The Devourers adapt to our weapons faster than we can deploy them. They learn our tactics and counter them within hours." "What about the ancient weapons?" asked Representative Mordu of the Crystalline Collective. "The artifacts from the last Great War?" Dr. Keftal shook his head. "We've activated every defensive system left by the Ancients, the Devourers, destroyed them as easily as they destroy everything else. This enemy is not the same one the Ancients faced 1,000,000 years ago. They've evolved." Chairman Veltar looked around the room at faces that showed fear, desperation, and growing panic. Every military option had been exhausted. Every defensive strategy had failed. The greatest civilization in galactic history was about to die. "There is one possibility we haven't discussed," said Representative Zethkar quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what he was about to say: the humans. The reaction was immediate and intense. Some species shouted that humanity had abandoned them. Others argued that humans couldn't be trusted. A few pointed out that 5 years of isolation might have left humanity too weak to help even if they wanted to. "Silence!" Veltar commanded. "Representative Zethkar, explain your reasoning." Zethkar stood up slowly. He looked older than his years, worn down by the weight of decisions that had led to this moment. "Our research teams have been studying the historical records. The species that defeated the Devourers 1,000,000 years ago had the same psychological profile as humans. Same technological approach, same tactical thinking." "That's speculation," argued Admiral Thys. "Is it?" Zethkar pulled up a holographic display. "Look at the weapon signatures from the ancient battlefields. Then look at the technology humans displayed during their withdrawal 5 years ago. The energy patterns are nearly identical. Doctor." Keftal examined the data with growing excitement. "He's right. The humans were using weapon concepts that match ancient technology. But how is that possible?" "Maybe they're descendants of the species that saved us before," Zethkar suggested. "Maybe they carry genetic memories or inherited knowledge. Maybe they're just naturally gifted at building things that kill impossible enemies." Chairman Veltar studied the evidence for a long moment. "Even if this is true, why would humans help us? We made it clear their concerns didn't matter. We sacrificed their colonies for political convenience. We treated them as expendable." "Because that's what humans do," Zethkar said quietly. "They save people who don't deserve saving. They fight for species who never fought for them. They sacrifice themselves for civilizations that treated them badly. The room buzzed with discussion. Some representatives remained skeptical, but others were beginning to see the logic. Humans had always been different from other species. They approached problems from angles no one else considered. They built weapons no one else could imagine. They won battles everyone else called impossible. "The decision is made," Veltar announced. "We will send a delegation to the Sol System and formally request human assistance." "They won't even talk to our ambassadors," protested the Centauri representative. "Then we send everyone," Veltar replied. "Every council member, every military leader, every head of state. We take our entire government to their doorstep and we beg." The word hung in the air like a curse. The proud Galactic Council, rulers of 1,000 worlds, reduced to begging for help from the species they had dismissed as children. But pride was a luxury they could no longer afford. Within days, the largest fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of Council space. Thousands of ships from hundreds of species, carrying every leader the galaxy could spare. The fleet was magnificent and desperate in equal measure. The journey to Sol took 3 days. During the trip, reports continued to arrive about Devourer advances. 2 more star systems had fallen. The mechanical invaders showed no signs of slowing down. When the Council fleet reached the Sol system's perimeter, they found it completely blocked by energy barriers and weapon platforms. Automated defense systems tracked their every movement. With deadly precision, "Attention Council fleet," came an automated message in perfect standard galactic. "You are approaching human space. This system is closed to all non-human traffic. Turn back immediately or face defensive action. Chairman." Veltar personally transmitted the response. "This is Chairman Veltar of the Galactic Council. We request immediate audience with human leadership regarding the Devourer crisis. The galaxy is facing extinction. We need your help." The response came back within seconds. "Transmission not recognized. Please contact your local council representative for assistance with galactic matters." For 3 days, the council fleet broadcast increasingly desperate messages. They offered everything they had: complete leadership of the galaxy, unlimited resources, territorial concessions beyond imagination, even voluntary servitude if humanity would just agree to help. Every message received the same automated response. Inside the Sol system, Captain Jake Morrison sat at his command station on Phoenix Station, reading the flood of transmissions from the Council fleet. Each message was more desperate than the last. Admiral Sullivan joined him at the communications center. "They're really scared," she observed. "Good," Jake replied, thinking of his wife and daughters. "Now they know how it feels to be expendable." "The Devourers will reach the core worlds in 6 weeks," Sullivan pointed out. "If we're going to act, we need to decide soon." Jake nodded and activated the system-wide communication network. Every human facility in Sol system received the same message: "Council request acknowledged. Stand by for decision." Dr. Ryan Clark's voice came through the speakers from Luna Research Station. "The new weapon systems are ready for field testing. Project Phoenix is operational. If we're going to save the galaxy, we have everything we need." "The question is whether we want to save them," Jake said quietly. Admiral Sullivan looked at him. "What do you think your daughters would want us to do?" Jake was quiet for a long moment. He thought about Beth's princess story, about heroes who fought dragons not because the people deserved saving, but because it was the right thing to do. Finally, he activated the external communications system. "Attention Council fleet," his voice carried across space to the thousands of waiting ships. "We acknowledge your transmission. Please stand by." The Council fleet waited in tense silence. Aboard their ships, the greatest leaders in galactic history held their breath and hoped that humanity might find it in their hearts to forgive 5 years of being ignored. In the distance, the Devourers continued their relentless advance toward the heart of civilization. The Council fleet had been waiting at the Sol system's edge for 3 days when the barriers suddenly opened. What emerged from humanity's fortress system was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the human fleet from the bridge of the UES Vengeance, a ship that seemed to bend space around itself as it moved. Behind her came 200 vessels of impossible design, their hulls dark as space and bristling with weapons that defied known physics. The human ships didn't slow down to acknowledge the Council fleet. They didn't respond to frantic communication attempts. They simply accelerated past the thousands of alien vessels and headed directly for the advancing Devourer swarm. Chairman Veltar watched from his flagship as humanity's answer became clear. They weren't going to negotiate or demand concessions or waste time with politics. They were going to war. "Follow them," he ordered his fleet commander. "Stay back, but follow them." Dr. Ryan Clark's voice reached every ship in both fleets through quantum communication systems the Council didn't know existed. Sol system defense protocols are now active. Any vessel approaching within 1 light-year of human space without authorization will be disabled and escorted away. This is your only warning. The Council fleet followed at a careful distance as the human armada raced toward the Devourer advance. Long-range sensors showed the enemy formation, thousands of mechanical constructs the size of moons, systematically consuming everything in their path. Captain Jake Morrison piloted the Vengeances, sister ship the UES Phoenix, through the lead formation. His weapons officer was Lieutenant Karen Walsh, now promoted after 5 years of service on the defense stations. "Sir, we're approaching the outer edge of their formation," Karen reported. "I'm reading weapon signatures unlike anything in our databases." Jake looked at the tactical display showing the approaching enemy. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he could hear his daughter Beth reading her princess story aloud, her small voice confident that good would triumph over evil. "All ships," Jake transmitted to the human fleet, "weapons free. Show them what 5 years of innovation can accomplish." The battle that followed rewrote every military textbook in galactic history. Human ships moved through space like living things, their quantum drives allowing impossible maneuvers that left Devourer targeting, systems confused and helpless. Weapons that tore holes in reality itself reached out across impossible distances to strike at the heart of enemy formations. Jake's ship dove into the center of the Devourer swarm, its hull somehow phasing through enemy fire while its own weapons turned ancient mechanical intelligences into expanding clouds of debris. Each kill felt like justice for New Boston, for Linda and Amy and Beth, for every human life the Council had written off as acceptable losses. The Devourers tried to adapt, as they had against Council forces, but human tactics were unlike anything they had encountered before. Where other species followed predictable patterns, humans improvised. Where aliens used standard formations, humans attacked from directions that shouldn't exist. Admiral Sullivan coordinated the fleet-wide assault from the Vengeance's command center. Her ships weren't just fighting the Devourers, they were dismantling them with surgical precision. Human scientists had spent 5 years studying ancient battlefield data, developing weapons specifically designed to counter mechanical intelligence. "Target their central processing nodes," she ordered. "Every construct has a control core. Find it and destroy it." The human fleet spread out through the Devourer formation like antibodies attacking an infection. Ships that could phase through, solid matter appeared inside enemy constructs and detonated weapons that unraveled matter at the quantum level. Fighters that moved faster than light itself darted between mechanical titans, placing charges that turned moon-sized enemies into scattered atoms. The Council fleet watched in amazement as humanity tore through an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. Ship after ship of mechanical invaders fell to human weapons, their ancient intelligence screaming in frequencies only human sensors could detect. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Keftal as he watched the tactical displays. "They're not just winning, they're destroying them completely." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, The Devourer fleet was nothing but expanding clouds of metallic debris. The mechanical intelligence that had consumed 20 trillion lives and threatened all galactic civilization was dead, its consciousness scattered across empty space. Captain Jake Morrison brought the Phoenix alongside the remains of the Devourer command ship, a construct that had been the size of a small planet. His weapons had reduced it to twisted metal and dark energy. "For Linda," he said quietly. "For Amy and Beth. For everyone you decided didn't matter." Admiral Sullivan's voice reached the entire human fleet. "All ships, return to Sol. Mission accomplished." The human armada began its journey home without sending a single message to the Council fleet that had watched their victory. They had done what they came to do. The galaxy was safe. Their obligation was complete. Chairman Veltar tried desperately to establish communication as the human ships prepared to leave. "Admiral Sullivan, please respond. The Council wishes to express its gratitude and discuss future cooperation." Sullivan's response came through on all frequencies, so every ship in the Council fleet could hear it. "The Devourer threat has been eliminated. The galaxy is safe. Humanity considers this matter closed. But surely we can discuss mutual benefits," Veltar persisted. "The Council is prepared to offer humanity leadership positions, territorial grants, unlimited research funding." Sullivan's reply was final. "Transmission not recognized. Please contact your local Council representative for assistance with galactic matters." The human fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving the Council fleet alone among the debris of their salvation. Years passed. The galaxy slowly rebuilt from the Devourer invasion, always watching the Sol system with a mixture of gratitude and regret. The Council established a permanent diplomatic mission at humanity's border, faithfully broadcasting messages that were never answered. New species joined the Council and learned the legend of humanity, the species that could have ruled the galaxy, but chose isolation instead. Children throughout known space grew up hearing stories about the humans who saved everyone and then disappeared. Sometimes long-range sensors detected massive construction projects within the Sol system, suggesting technological developments that made the Devourer battle look simple by comparison. But humanity never shared their advances and never responded to requests for contact. The Council had taught humanity that their lives were worthless, their voices meaningless, their concerns irrelevant. Humanity had learned the lesson perfectly. Captain Jake Morrison, now Admiral of Sol Defense, sat in his office 50 years later, reading a worn pink book about a princess who always did the right thing regardless of politics or consequences. Outside his window, Earth hung peaceful and protected in space, surrounded by defenses that could stop anything the galaxy might send. The Council still broadcasted daily requests for dialogue, still offered everything they had for just a moment of human attention. Their messages were automatically filed away unread, their offers ignored, their desperate pleas falling on deaf ears. Humanity had saved the galaxy not out of forgiveness or hope for reconciliation, but because saving people was what humans did. It was who they were, even when those people had failed them completely. But saving the galaxy didn't mean forgiving it. It didn't mean forgetting the lessons learned or trusting species that had proven themselves untrustworthy. It certainly didn't mean going back to a council that saw human lives as acceptable sacrifices. The Council had begged for humanity's help, and humanity had provided it. The Council had begged for humanity's return, but humanity had turned away, without a word. In the end, the galaxy got exactly what it deserved: salvation without reconciliation, protection without partnership, and safety without forgiveness. The legend would outlive them all: how humanity saved a galaxy that had never valued them, then walked away from the stars rather than serve those who had betrayed their trust. Some stories end with the hero returning home to celebration and reward. This story ended with the hero going home because there was nowhere else worth going.